one of the things that I'm sure you've all read these books, and if you haven't, run out and read them, that makes this world so extraordinary is the whole concept of a demon. And for an actor, that's a really tricky proposition because it's not a character that's been animated or created for you to act against, but rather an extension of your actual living soul. So particularly, with Lyra, but also with Mrs. Coulter, that character betrays a lot about what you're going through. So I'm wondering how that worked for you as a company of actors. You're dealing with puppets at some points, but you're really imagining yourself outside of yourself. You want to start, Daphne?
Well, I think it was a massive help having it there because it does help you. You only do, the demon is the more sensible, the more responsible part of you. So, for example, Lara will be running up on a roof, and she'll be about to jump, and Pam will be like, "No, don't jump," but she'll still jump. So it just helps that contradiction that she has in her head about this is dangerous, but I'm still going to do it anyway. So it does help you having that, and it's a beautiful relationship that, for example, Lara has an amazing relationship with Pan. She really loves Pan and she really takes care of Pan. She has these amazing scenes with Pan where it's just her and Pan talking. And it really helps you as an actor because you really see the interior of life of the character just by talking. Because it's talking to yourself, but not because it's outside of you. So that really shows Lara's love towards herself, and you can see different relationships with different characters towards themselves.
Ruth, you have a particularly nasty little demon.
Yes. My monkey is particularly nasty, but
don't touch
as I say, misunderstood.
Yes.
No, it was really amazing because these guys, very early on, they decided to use puppeteers to help us on the day. It not only helped us, but it helped the camera crew and the editors to know where these demons were going to be on the screen. But I have a guy called Brian who plays my monkey, and he's real. And Josh James, and he's lovely. He's and he's brilliant. We together, I knew that this was a key to who Mrs. Coulter was her relationship with her demon. And unlike everyone else, my demon does not speak. And I'm pretty cruel to my demon, and in return, my demon is pretty cruel to other people. And so we had to work out where that came from. And I think it's a real key to who Mrs. Coulter is. It's the key to who everyone is a relationship with themselves. And so that was, me and Brian worked a lot on how each scene, we would move around a room, how each scene, if we're on our own, what that looked like. And it really gave so many more layers to who this character is through the eyes or by dealing with the demon and her relationship with it. So it was, and on the day you'd have him next to me. I mean, Brian was crawling around on the floor next to me, or in some, wasn't he? He was,
yeah. You'd be filming with Ruth, and Brian would be just like.
Yeah, and now they have to edit him out, and it's quite sad to say goodbye to Brian. But
we love you, Brian.
We do. He's back for the second season, so that's good. We hired him back.
Lynn, you play the most different character, I think, than you've ever played. I think people imagine you as many things, but I'm wondering about the conversation about Texan who flies balloons and why...
Typecast, again. It was very simple, actually. I was working on Mary Poppins Returns at the time. I was in London, and Jane and Jack took me out for a drink, and I didn't know what it was about. I was a huge fan of the Harry Potter play. I'm a huge fan of everything Bad Wolf has done, and so I was like, yes, I will sit and have dinner. And they said his Dark Materials, and I said, yes! I didn't even know what the part was. I would have sharpened pencils for this. I'm a huge fan of the books. When my wife and I started dating, we read these books together. This is like part of our falling in love story, these books. And it's a beautiful coming-of-age story, and there's a love story in there as well. So they're in a really special place in my heart. And they said Lee Scoresby, and I said yes. And then I figured if they saw it, I could find my way to seeing it. And I love my demon. You know, I've been lucky enough to work at Sesame Street for many years. I write songs for Sesame Street. And when you bring kids to the set, they don't look at the Muppeteers. They're just talking to Elmo. They're just talking to Grover. And that's how it was for us with our demons after a while, too. I had this amazing Arctic hare named Hester. And for me, she was this beautiful puppet. And the puppeteer who worked with her was so brilliant that I would just be talking to Hester. My relationship with Hester is like, we're like our own little buddy cop movie in the middle of this show, because I think Lee's a lonely guy. He spends a lot of time alone in the air. So we talk to each other constantly. So that was my relationship with my demon.
So from Hester to Stella Maria, the thoroughly badass snow leopard.
Yeah, that's my soul. That's typecast again, right? I think one of the really cool things about this world is that when you're a child before puberty, your demon is changeable, and it can change into any shape depending on what mood or just what you desire or what would help the situation. But when you reach puberty, when you start to settle on who you actually are, your demon also settles on a form, on an animal's form. And I guess the day that Lord Asriel's demon settled as a snow leopard, he went, wow, I'm totally badass. And I'm a real loner. And this is the other interesting thing. In this world, once your demon settles, you get to look at yourself and go, wow, I'm a subservient dog, or I'm a flighty sparrow, or I'm a badass snow leopard that just walks his own path, you know what I mean? And it's just it's a very different kind of, I guess, relationship with yourself, and your own kind of self-possession changes because you've got a reflection of yourself right in front of you you can't really hide from, you can't lie to, and you can't lie about yourself. And by the way, everybody else can see what your soul is like as well. It's a really interesting, makes for interesting relationship dynamics.